Hello, and welcome to my channel. As you can see from the title today, we're talking about Stanley Kubrick's supposed fear of flying and the possible reason for it. And if you're actually seeing this on the day I'm uploading it, then it's July 26th. And yes, that's Stanley Kubrick's birthday, which is why we're doing something a little different today. So, happy Kubrick Day. Now, let's get on with our video. First, let's start off with a quote by Stanley himself that I found. Quote, "I am afraid of aeroplanes. I've been able to avoid flying for some time, but I suppose if I had to, I would. Perhaps it's a case of a little knowledge being a dangerous thing. At one time, I had a pilot's license and 160 hours of solo time on single engine light aircraft. Unfortunately, all that seemed to do was make me mistrust large aeroplanes." So, apparently, Stanley actually had a pilot's license at one point, but it sort of made him mistrust larger planes as a result. And according to a New York Times article from 1973, Stanley was afraid especially of flying over oceans. And since Kubrick moved to England in 1961, we can guess that he probably didn't take any planes after that date, though apparently he did travel on big boats like the Queen Mary to go back and forth, presumably to New York City, since Kubrick's parents were still alive, I believe until the mid 1980s, but no planes. And this refusal to get on a plane basically led to Kubrick's films being shot and produced in England, near to where he lived, with many of the famous scenes from 2001 A Space Odyssey being filmed at the Boreham Wood Studios, including what they called the centrifuge scenes. Of course, Eyes Wide Shut looked like it was filmed on the streets of New York City, but it wasn't. This was all recreated at Pinewood Studios in London, but made to look like Greenwich Village in New York. Supposedly, Kubrick's daughter actually went to New York, not sure if on a plane or boat, and took pictures of street scenes to send back to Stanley. And Full Metal Jacket famously recreated Vietnam in London, filming these bombed out cityscapes at an abandoned gasworks in East London. Stanley even had palm trees flown in for the battle scenes for Full Metal Jacket, all filmed in England. So Stanley didn't have to fly anywhere. But did everyone agree that Stanley Kubrick was afraid of flying? Well, no. Matthew Modine, the actor who starred as Joker in Full Metal Jacket, has said in an article that the stories about Stanley being afraid to fly were fabricated, that he just preferred to live in England. And Kubrick's widow, Christiane, is understandably very protective of Stanley's reputation and legacy, and doesn't want to see him portrayed as some type of crazy eccentric. Apparently, Stanley had a friend he worked at Look magazine with in the 1950s who died in a plane crash. And perhaps this played some part in the persistent rumors of a fear of flying. But if someone was afraid of flying, that would also conjure up feelings of isolation and claustrophobia and paranoia, of being stuck on a plane, unable to get off. All three of these themes play out in different Kubrick films, so let's take a look at them now. First, let's start with paranoia, a theme there's quite a lot of in 1964's Doctor Strangelove. Paranoia of two countries not trusting each other to the point of mutual destruction. And of course, on the warplane, there's paranoia about finishing the mission, even though it's a mistake that they've been sent out to drop a bomb. The paranoia of the Cold War. Isolation is one of the main themes in The Shining, in which a family travels to a remote hotel in the mountains in the winter only to get snowed in. Of course, the family will be in real danger, or at least Danny and Wendy are. and mostly from Dad Jack. The effects of this isolation seem most obvious in Jack as he slips deeper and deeper into the grip of the Overlook Hotel. And claustrophobia is one of the themes of 2001 A Space Odyssey, at least while we were on board the Discovery spacecraft with our two astronauts, Dave and Frank, and our supercomputer, the HAL 9000. It's claustrophobic because obviously there's nowhere else to go. You're out in space. You can't necessarily just choose to go home or leave. Actually, when you do leave, it's even more claustrophobic because now you're stuck in one of those little pods and it's cramped in there. So, to start our sum up, if someone was afraid to fly, it might definitely be because they had some feelings of claustrophobia or paranoia or isolation of being stuck on a plane that you can't really get off of. And it's true, we see these themes pop up in some of Stanley Kubrick's films. But did Stanley Kubrick actually have a fear of flying? Well, with the utmost respect, I have to say, it does appear as though Stanley avoided taking planes for several decades at least, basically bringing everyone and everything to England to film there, even building the most elaborate set pieces there. He was definitely more comfortable filming close to his home in England. I think his own early experiences as a pilot left him a bit wary of flying, but I don't think that makes him crazy or eccentric at all, especially if he had a friend that might have died in a plane crash. It's understandable that someone would avoid planes after all of that. So, did Stanley Kubrick have a fear of flying? Well, let's just say that he was extremely cautious. And for someone known to be a bit of a perfectionist and a genius, I think that's perfectly reasonable. Well, that's my new video about Stanley Kubrick's supposed fear of flying. Hope you liked it. Of course, I'm uploading this on what would have been Stanley's 96th birthday today. Again, I want to thank you for all the comments you've been leaving under my videos. I'm working on something for next week, and I hope to have that up soon. Also, my name is Jim. Thank you for spending time with me, and have a great day.